Our pregnancy journey was not an easy one. It was about 2 months after our last miscarriage that we found out we were pregnant with Miles.
And then at 16 weeks, we went in for the fetal echocardiogram. I remember it taking longer than we thought. And I think the first thing they said was, so Miles has a serious heart condition.
He had transposition of the great arteries. The left ventricle is supposed to give off the aorta and send blood to the body. In Miles's case, his left ventricle gives rise to the pulmonary artery, sending blood back to the lungs.
So his heart is not putting oxygenated blood into his body.
The majority of these patients would die in the neonatal period. Very few of them survive beyond a year of age.
Without a doubt, Miles needed an open heart surgery.
It was quite shocking. I think we cried probably for a couple days. And then after that, I think it just turned into like, all right, let's figure out the best possible medical care we can get for him.
UCSF is on a very small list of amazing hospitals and organizations that have this cardiac program and that can do this surgery. It was a little overwhelming at first, but the RN, Kristen, always ended every visit with a hug.
If you think about the surgery this child needed, you really want a surgeon who's very comfortable with these very detailed operations.
All the tissues are very delicate. One wrong move, you could damage the tissue. So the margin of error is very little. So that's why it needs very precise surgery.
If you look up Dr. Reddy on the internet, you will very quickly learn he's the best at what he does. And when it was guaranteed that Dr. Reddy would do the surgery, there was no question in my mind, like, this is where we're going.
We went in on October 19th. It was pretty quickly after the Pitocin that we broke my water, and then things moved very quickly after that. I could see in the corner of my eye a room with about a dozen people prepared to take Miles and care for him right after I gave birth.
Miles came out. He went on mom's chest for a little bit.
It seemed like seconds. I think it was just enough for Cassidy to cut the cord, and there was a window that they actually passed him through. We were told, okay, we've got it from here.
The days leading up to his heart surgery were the hardest days. I distinctly remember a point when Laura asked me, why are you so upset? And I said, I'm worried he's gonna die. Once I had him and I could see him, I was like, oh, I really don't wanna lose this. It means everything to me. And then very specifically, the moment when we were up there in the cardiac ICU and his blood oxygen dropped so low, and they actually called whatever code they do, they asked us to step outside, and I'm going like, what's happening to my son? And his breathing becomes so shallow that they had to bag resuscitate him.
These kids with this type of heart defect, sometimes they may not be breathing well enough on their own before surgery. And just having a breathing tube in, occasionally you may have a lung issue.
And that was one of the hardest things I think I'll ever witness in my entire life. At the same time, you're at UCSF, and this amazing thing happens when there are issues that arise. There's about 5 or 6 very calm, very smart people that come into the room.
The day of the surgery, I was a basket case. We kissed him, we said goodbye.
I believe it was 8 to 10 hours that they had him in there. One of the first people that we got to talk to afterwards was Dr. Reddy. And first thing he talked about was how complex and interesting and unique Miles's heart was. And Cass and I were just sitting there like, and he goes, oh, and everything's fine. He's doing great. It was a success.
See, that's his aortic valve, which is working very well.
You know, you could just tell this man loves what he does. After that was another sigh of relief, but I think the day things really turned a corner for us was on Halloween of 2023, because that was the day that Miles got his breathing tube taken out.
The joy that came over me when I heard him cry for the first time was just like unlike anything I've ever felt in my life.
We were able to hold him. We were able to start learning his little facial expressions and his cries and his coos. And that's when he went from being a patient to our baby boy. Okay, let's go. Miles is doing great. We have had follow-ups across all 3 campuses.
That's great.
He's going to continue to have an annual echocardiogram every year just to make sure that that heart is continuing to develop, that the vessels are continuing to grow.
Are they pumpkin pancakes?
He's a super energetic kid. He's a super happy kid. It's infectious. It's just like he makes you happy too, right?
Very nice.
We look forward to telling him his story, and I hope that he appreciates everything that was done for him, because there's a lot of people that did a lot of things to make him who he is.
I'm just so grateful we had experts and compassionate people guiding us through it. I can't imagine going through what we went through without them.